Boy, I love time gating content. Hello, everybody. I am Jmulls of Jmulls Gaming. And Blizzard just can't help themselves, can they? It's just something within them, some darkened spirit that haunts them in perpetuity, where they're on the cusp of doing something really cool, and then they just go, you know what we're going to do? Split it up into a bunch of chunks and time gate it, because that's what the people want. Can I get an amen? That, right there, that's the picture. See, that is the Mona Lisa. It's the Da Vinci. What we're going to do is hype up this patch with a really powerful ring that you can socket in these special gems to give really powerful effects and a bunch of stats. What we're then going to do is time gate all the good ones, and also time gate you leveling the item level of this ring up. Now, I don't want this to come off like 11.07 is a bad patch or anything. I quite like it. For a .07 patch, you know, normally something that I go in with absolutely zero expectations and borderline forget even happened, there's a decent amount here. And granted, I have just come back to World of Warcraft after a hiatus, but while I don't think the Siren Isle will appeal to everyone, I think it has a role to play, and I think it plays that role relatively well. It's a great catch-up spot for a fresh alt. I had a Shadow Priest that I leveled up. Dude was at like 542 item level or something peasant like that. It was an abomination. Granted, there are already ways in the game to overcome that issue relatively quickly, i.e. crafting gear, but it's crafting, and I could either craft something or I could hit something really hard with a Void Blast. What do I want to do more? But I digress. What does the Siren Isle do? Gives you an alternate way to get into the swing of endgame content really quickly and for minimal effort. With the handy-dandy new resource of the month called Flame Blessed Iron, you are able to buy a full set of upgradable 584 gear from the Quartermaster on Siren Isle. And it is not expensive at all. For my entire Shadow Priest, I upgraded everything outside of like, what, 3 slots maybe? And I did that all with the Flame Blessed Iron I accrued on my main by just doing the weekly stuff for Siren Isle like once. And I had that banged out in like 2 hours or so. And I still had Flame Blessed Iron spared. Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to spend this stuff on. You get so much of it. Especially if you play any alt, because you're just going to get a bunch more Flame Blessed Iron, and I'm still not entirely sure what I'm supposed to spend it all on. Besides some transmogs that do not appeal to me personally, but they are there, I guess. But that's kind of it. Siren Isle is not that much. But what I think is good about it is the fact that it's rather small scale. Now, if you're looking to dump tens and tens of hours into a new zone, that's just not what Siren Isle is built to be. It has a few neat ideas, some interesting world building, but it serves 2 main purposes. Gearing 3 actually. Gearing alts, collectathon stuff like getting mounts, transmog, stuff like that, and then the ring. The ring is, well, a ring that you acquire within the Siren Isle. It is called Circe's Circlet, and there's a lot of lore surrounding this thing on the Siren Isle, and especially if you're willing to immerse yourself in all the text and all the item descriptions that are here on the Siren Isle, you can learn an interesting story surrounding this thing. Because they kind of built this thing up to borderline be like the one ring. Like, they tried to actively hype this ring up, and the old bearer of this ring, Circe. So, what is the ring? It's a high item level ring. I upgraded the item level once, and it's 642 right now. It gives you a giant chunk of stamina. No one cares about that, really, unless you're like maybe a tank, I guess. But let's be fair here, most people want damage. They want their numbers to be bigger, badder, thicker, juicier, girthier. They want those big numbers. And stamina is not something that's going to be tingling your balls or anything. But the way you can make your numbers bigger, or at least you're supposed to, is that the ring has 3 gem slots. And not just standard gems, there are these unique gemstones on the Siren Isle that you can collect called citrines. They fall under 3 categories or colors, and you slot them into the ring. Simple, right? Like the ones that I have equipped on my ring right now do the following effects. My spells and abilities have a chance to zap an enemy for 244-ish K nature damage. Alright, chunk of damage. Not much, but alright. Another one. Your spells and abilities have a chance to bathe an ally in restorative waters that jumps to 2 nearby allies, restoring about 245k health to each of them. Alright, healing. Cool. And then you have the third one, at least the one that I use. And by equipping this one, I gain 2,236 of my highest secondary stat. What's the issue here? These aren't the only citrines that will be available for Circe's Circlet, the ring. We have about 4 available right now, I think. At least I have 4. Actually got a dupe one, which is kind of funny. But the other one that I've chosen not to use right now, the effect for that one is your spells and abilities have a low chance of triggering the Singing Thunder citrine effects of 4 nearby allies. Whenever an allied player dies, this effect is triggered immediately. Okay, besides like zapping my target, the ring's kind of boring, ain't it? And apparently, funnily enough, if you hop on over to Wowhead, and I'll leave a link in the description down below to this article, the ring kinda crap right now, because you don't get access to the really good citrines that buff you up a bunch because they're time-gated, alongside the resource that you utilize to upgrade the item level of the ring itself. Because Blizzard wasn't content with only one form of time-gating for this ring, there had to be 2 for some reason. And I don't get why they're doing this. It doesn't make sense to me. Because I think the argument would be to pace the player base so that people keep playing. Well, I would ask, you already have a form of time gating when it comes to upgrading the item level for the ring. How many people out there would you reasonably expect to stay subscribed simply because they want to upgrade the item level for this ring or get some citrines for it? As opposed to waiting for 11.1 to come around, banging out Siren Isle in like an afternoon or something, getting all that power anyways, and then going on about your day. You see what I mean? It's a decision that doesn't feel like it's rooted in actual scenarios that transpire in the community. Or if they do, I'm not familiar with them happening. It feels like a data-driven decision, but I question the data that was used to construct this decision. Because I don't see how time gating all these citrines makes this enjoyable and makes me want to stick around simply to get a bunch of these citrines. I'm new to the war with it. I only came back like 2 weeks ago. I'm going to play anyways. But if you've been playing since launch, let alone if you're endgame geared, I don't see this being a big enough of a draw in any conceivable way to keep those players. So I don't see the advantage of time gating the citrine element, let alone upgrading the ring. I can kind of understand that one a little bit, especially since apparently Siren Isle has multiple different phases. Like, okay, sure. Okay, kinda. For the citrines, though, I don't understand the decision because it doesn't feel like one that is rooted in actual gameplay experience. It feels like it was decided in a boardroom. Because the talk of the town right now, alluding back to that Wowhead article discussed before, is that the ring in its current state is really kind of bad and not that powerful. And they talk about it in the Wowhead article that the ring in its current state for some people is about equivalent to a 575, a 577 ring. From my amateur sims from my own character, which is a Frost Death Knight, that has not been the case. It is a bit of an upgrade for me, but only by like 3 to 4k for DPS, which is not much. And I'm not even like that geared on my character. My DK is only 604. And the other rings that I was simming it against are 603 and 600. Blizzard has this bad tendency to snatch failure from the jaws of victory. It's disappointing to see this behavior from Blizzard rear its ugly head yet again, because it happened the last time I tried to come back to World of Warcraft, back during Mr. Pandaria Remix, where for some reason they really wanted you to make the decision between investing in the cosmetic progression loop of Mr. Pandaria Remix or upgrading your gear using the resource in Mr. Pandaria Remix, because you couldn't do both. You had to choose to drop your resources into one or the other, because both, getting transmog mounts, pets, whatever, use the same resource as upgrading your gear during that remix event. And I didn't understand why they did it then. I thought it was a stupid decision then. They stuck to their guns because they're stupid or something, and I don't understand why they did that, because I don't view it ever to be a good decision that a player has to make if the choice is, do you want to have fun or do you want to look cool? cool. That is never a fun decision when I just want to have fun and look cool. And I don't think to do that, I don't think that should require double the effort. And you may go, Jmulls, well, why does any of this matter? It will eventually sort itself out as the other citrines come online. And yeah, hopefully. But the problem is, first impressions matter. And with World of Warcraft in the state that it is in currently, WoW is a much better game than it had been for years at that point, in my opinion. The design direction they have taken this game is far better and healthier for the short and long term for most elements to this game. Not all, but for most of them. And I appreciate the actual direction WoW has right now as opposed to back in BFA or Shadowlands. I think the story is better. The storytelling, even in 11.07, is surprisingly competent. I even like the extra little story we got, which pretty much serves as connecting tissue leading us into Undermine. It's short, but it was okay. I liked it. Had a couple of interesting cutscenes, bit of character development. I liked it. I really like how they've handled Magni as a character as well. Cool. Good stuff. I even quite like the Siren Isle lore. It's not the best thing ever, and I'm not going to call it revolutionary or whatever, but if you're willing to stop and smell the roses and read the tablets and item descriptions available to you, there's an interesting story that is there, and a bunch of backstory for the ring and for the island, while reintroducing some rather interesting players, like Vrykul and Naga, etc. Also the Coltirans. I like that stuff. But you poison the well when you do stupid decisions like time gating citrine acquisition for this ring. It's already an 11.07 patch. I understand the goal is to retain players until Undermined, until 11.1. I get that. I don't think this is the way to do it. Because I also think that if your goal is to utilize this time gate to retain players, then you executed on that goal in a stupid way. Because there's nothing in this game that really tells you that you're going to get even more citrines down the line. Or if there is a line of dialogue, then that's all it is. It's like one line of disposable dialogue that no one's going to read, and most people are just going to assume that when all the quest markers are done in the Siren Isle, they're done. Because if you're trying to target this time gating for that turbo casual audience, that's what's going to happen. So you're doing two things. You're upsetting the people that actually pay attention, or the people that sim their characters and things like that. You're upsetting those people. That word of mouth will spread, and if your goal is to retain all these people that are the silent majority, because you always have that carrot on a stick saying, hey, if you come back later down the line, you'll get some new citrines. That's communicated terribly in-game, so you're not even accomplishing that goal in my experience, and in my opinion. So I don't see what the tangible benefit of doing this is, and this is design philosophy that I think needs to be stamped out at Blizzard, because the game is genuinely going in a far better direction, not only for the short term, but also the long term. But it's design direction like this, even on a micro level, something as disposable as the Siren Isle, in the long term, you're allowing what should be just an interesting thing to do before Undermined comes out, and you're reminding people of the old Blizzard. And that's not what you want to do. You want to remind them of the new Blizzard. And there's elements here that do that. But if I'm going to sell you a basket full of apples, and one of them is all moldy, but the others are pristine, most people probably aren't going to buy the basket, because that one apple stands out far too much. That's a bit of an exaggerated example, but I think it does drive the point home. Design philosophy like this, especially when executed in such a way, only serves to act as a detriment to all the goodwill and all the good design you are trying to foster and implement into the game. And I think the game would be in a far healthier state if you let go of these design philosophies. Stop trying to time gate every single thing to such a degree and to such a manner. And if people want to just go in, blast all the content in like an afternoon, and go full turbo tryhard with it all, let them. If that's how they enjoy playing the game, let them do that. You will always have people that cry and moan about not having enough to do. That will always happen. And it's designed that tries to please everybody by upsetting nobody, that I think just ends up upsetting a lot of people and pleasing nobody in the grand scheme of things. And with that, I think I'll call the video there for the day. Thank you all for tuning in. My pleasure making the video. At the end of the day, I think Siren Isle 11.07 has been rather enjoyable to me. I've liked it. But this time gating stuff needs to go. This anti-fun policy and direction that content still has in World of Warcraft needs to go. Bye-bye, everybody. Leave a comment down below with if you agree or not. I'd love to hear your thoughts and hear your opinions and hear your perspective. Stay safe, have a great day, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody. Until we meet again.